Oh, hey Wonka.
Hello, Tam. Hello, Mitch. Hello, Septi.
Hey Juan.
Let me see where we have the. I know I created something for this already. Here it is. So maybe we just take a moment. Oh, it's what is that? It's not available. I don't know what happened. I'll add it to the meeting agenda too, but I'll drop it here. Maybe that one's better. Hey Chewy. Oh, cool. I'm dropping the. Okay. That should be the right doc. Cool. All right, maybe we start out just with like a little check-in, just pass around and what you see as the objective of this hour. We have 1 hour together. What you see as the objective of this hour we have together, and I'll pass to Chewy to get us started.
I'm sorry, Tam. I was a little distracted because I'm on the street. What was the question again?
The question is just like with this hour that we have together and the subject of proposals for initial buy-in, just want to sort of level set and check in and see that we like what is your expectation out of this hour together?
I mostly wanted to like listen about uh, like some directions it might take uh, regarding like a proposal. Um, I'm um, I think I'm mostly excited about like T Academy. What could be like fun
I'm sorry
around
to
that?
cut you off. Chewy, sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's just like let's just start with like a quick round so everyone can say what their expectation is, and then I'll pass back to you to start to finish the
Oh
sentiment,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Okay. I'll pass it to Mitch.
Thanks, Chewy. My main goal from this call is if we could just pick a number, and picking a number great, and then going through the use cases to make us feel good about it afterwards. And I'll pass it to Zepti.
Thanks, Mitch. Yeah, my intention is pretty much similar than Mitch, like pick a number, but also structure this number. You know, like okay, we want some money for the reward system. We want so well venture capitalists, or we also, or maybe we just want to buy and I do not support that, but buy and yeah, and just to speculate with our own token, and then we see what we do. But yeah, have the number and a bit of a structure on yeah, about this number, and also how are we going to help these funds.
Juan
That's
Carlos?
it.
Yeah. I think that choosing a number is very important. But also I want to learn. And Tam, I think the document in the calendar, the link is broken. So yeah, if you can update that to join in the document.
It's already updated and it's also in the stewards channel. Yeah, I noticed that just now. Sorry, that was not fixed before.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, and then from my perspective, the number is crucial, the structure is crucial, and the use cases are crucial. So for me, if we get those three elements, we can build a draft around those three things. But an agreement to those three things would be amazing. Okay, so Chewy, you wanted to say something, and I wanted us to finish the orientations, or I thought it would be better to finish these intentions. Do you want to go back and share what it was that you wanted to share?
Just around uh,
Oh, hey, you're getting
the T
lost.
Academy proposal. it's something that I would like to get involved in cautions, because I'm area with a lot of opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard that the TE proposal is something you want to get involved in.
Yes, I just find the education area with a lot of opportunity to start getting like more attention to the TEC. So yeah, it's
Okay.
just what I wanted to add.
Cool. So if we are going to start maybe shaping it through these three things, like what's the number, right? What's the figure? What is the options for the custody and governance of the funds? So we pick a number, then how are we managing it? Who is managing it? Who's responsible? And then what can it be used for, right? And Shui, you're saying education. It can be used for education, would be your suggestion. Can I ask a question? The TE Academy will submit a proposal for funding to conviction voting. So maybe I just want to question mark or make sure that we know that we're all talking about the specific initial buy-in, which would mean that we're able to offer tokens to perhaps strategic partners. Perhaps we're able to use those funds for returning higher yields than we would if it's just sitting in XDAI in our treasury, and other purposes. So those are two possible purposes. The education doesn't make sense to me because any education initiative should be applying for a proposal from conviction voting. Is there something about this I'm not understanding correctly?
No, Tom, you're right. I just hadn't gotten the part about like the specific proposal of the initial buying. I thought it was a general discussion around proposals. Sorry about that.
Oh, cool. No problem. Yeah. I've been speaking with Angela about her proposal, by the way, and they do mean to apply to conviction voting for funding for the Token Engineering Academy. Okay. Mitch, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about these three topics. Do you mind maybe riffing a little bit on them?
Yeah, sure. So I've seen some of the figures tossed around, and if we've got a total amount of 1.57 million 800,000, then we've got a range of 600,000 or something. Basically, that's like maximum that we could ask for. But I can see there's a lot of consensus around 200K. I would say nothing over 300,000 to me, at least, for this initial buy-in, because we still want to have a really good common pool, and we still probably want to do lots of stuff that we haven't thought of at this particular time. And we don't know what our funding stream is going to be like post-Commons upgrade. Going from there, the governance structure really depends on like how dynamic we want this working group to be. It's cool to include the community, but I think needing to make quick decisions, especially like when you're playing with crypto, you need to have something that's a bit more agile that can still be accountable to the community. And to the last point, again, I really think whatever we choose, at least 50% should be used for buying TEC tokens, because that seems like kind of the biggest proponent that we had for doing this initial buy-in was buying TEC tokens. So I think at least half of it should go to that. And if we choose to use the rest for something else like agave or whatever else, I'm happy to hear those as well.
Oh, actually, that's interesting. You're right. I think I'm confusing these issues. So it would be buying TEC tokens, and then the question is, what can the TEC token? Yeah. Sorry. This initial. You're right. I'm confusing the treasury and the yield. You're right. So this would basically be, I mean, to describe the initial buy. The initial buy is of TEC tokens by the DAO at the instantiation of the bonding curve.
So then, yeah, right away from there, I can go to that. We should set aside some for kickstarting the reward system. We also should think about if we want to deploy liquidity in secondary markets, like if we want to make bridges with communities like Agave or with Ether or with XDAI, like however we want, we have that option by holding TEC tokens to create bridges where we want them. And I think that was kind of the main 3 points I kind of saw in the discussion. I don't think speculating on our own token, like holding it to eventually sell it, is like really aligned with what we're trying to do. So I would feel less hot about doing something around that. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I can pass it to Zepti.
Thanks, Mitch. Yeah, on the first bullet, I kind of agree with Mitch, like something like 200, 300, something in between. I think it's a good number. Because yeah, as he said, like we want to make sure, like what is most important, at least for my point of view, it's like we test the bonding curve, we test the community, and yeah, we do what we came here to do. And the other things to speculate, and yeah, this is a good opportunity, so we need to take. Yeah, we can do this because we raised more than our minimum goal. So I think yeah, we just take this opportunity. And on the second bullet, I would rather prefer to lose agility and make decisions that are longer in term, like not make decisions like, oh, we need, we need to be quick. Like I wouldn't take those, and I really think we should. Yeah, all these decisions should be taken along with the community. And another thing is like I think we should buy, like the amount we buy, I think we should put it all on TEC. And it's not for speculate with our token, but if we're gonna add liquidity, let's say with Agave, we can do it with our own token. We don't need to have XDAI. And yeah, I really like the idea that Griff posted on the forum, like the Olympus DAO thing. Like the idea is to buy liquidity instead of this liquidity. Like normally, like it's like renting, and it's over the years. Like and with what Olympus DAO is doing, like they choose. They buy the liquidity. So, for example, if we have TC and Honey liquidity pools and someone wants to sell it to us, then we give them a 10% Steam. So it's not like they can sell it right away, but at the end of this period of time, we will have these liquidity tokens. And yeah, this is very advantageous for us because like this liquidity will never be removed unless we want it to be removed, and it would cost. Like the people who would invest that money there, it's people who really trust, not trust, but thinks like the TC is going to perform well in the future. And let me go down. Yeah, I would like. Yeah, of course, like we really need to set up a number for the reward system, and I think this should come from the reward working group. They are who are studying it and know better. So this number should come from them, and yeah, and then we have like this rest of TC, and I would split it like DAO to DAO relationships and also to selling liquidity. I think that's a great idea, and I'll pass it to Juan.
On the first bullet, I also thought around like a 10%, like 150K, more or less. And yeah, on the what is the custody governance structure? Yeah, I am not so good in that. So I think that yeah, maybe a smaller community to be accountable to the community would be good. And on the community decision making, yeah, I think that it's good that the decisions are taken by the community, but that are implemented maybe by this governance structure. And what can it be used for? I also think that this is important to make like an experiment, um, to know like how can this act help us make bigger um, the value of the token.
So how can this help increase the value of the token?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
I'm not sure I know. Does anyone have an answer for that? I'm not sure that's within the scope of this actually. But I mean, like directly. Or maybe it is. Maybe this idea of this liquidity can help improve the price of the token, right? Having a more liquid market and secondary markets is positive. Strategic partnerships, like having a partnership with Balancer or with other really well-aligned token engineering organizations and DAOs can also help the price of the token. So I think that unless there's something more specifically that you want to suggest, I feel like this is the point where we need to get concrete. We need to be concrete so that we can draft a really specific proposal. But I agree that anything we do should help the price of the token, but something more specifically. Do you have something more specific in mind other than partnerships, reward system, and liquidity?
No, I think it's good. Yeah, and yeah, to initialize and to buy on the best moment of the bonding curve. But
Yeah.
I think that's already explained.
Yes. Yeah, that will be, I mean, basically the way it was explained by Sem, I think, and by Griff is that the bonding curve is launched and this is executed at the same time. So because when the bonding curve is launched, that will be the lowest price possible. Well, I guess it depends on what we set as the initial price. But it should be. That's actually a really good question. I guess it depends on what we set as the initial price, because we would buy after the initial price, at the initial price setting, which in theory can go down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Mitch can explain that better, but from what I understand, like we will have this token freeze and token thaw, and it doesn't matter which price we choose. Like, meanwhile, the tokens are frozen, since they cannot sell. Like, this price is the lower that possible. Like, it's always going to be up until the tokens start to thaw.
But will it be at the initial price? Let's say we set the initial price to $3 DAI, right? Then this buy would be at 3 DAI, and there is some space between that price and the floor.
Yeah, but
The buy is made.
Say it again, Mitch.
After the buy is made, then the price will go up. Yeah, but the price can't go below $3 until the token or from 6 months to a year.
Okay.
That makes sense, or can you guys hear me?
Yeah. No, we can hear you all. I guess I thought the floor was
You don't hear
set
me
by
well.
what was. Yeah, I think we just have a small lag. Initial price. Okay. Okay, cool. I guess I'll write some caveats for us to add to the proposal that we want to make points really clear. Chewy, did you want to also share your thoughts? I don't, if you're walking, maybe you can't see the document. If not, feel free just to pass and keep listening. Okay, I'll keep going. Let me know if you want to share some thoughts. For my thinking, I think the figure, I don't know, actually. I think these all seem defendable. Maybe 20% is a little high, but I think really what it will come down to is when we talk about the governance structure and what it can be used for, then going to like the advantages and disadvantages. For the custody, I think the question really is, for me, what exactly does this look like? So the DAO will buy tokens and it would hold it in a multi-sig ? Like, so there will be, by nature of some people needing to have those multi-sigs, a small group of people. I don't see, and maybe Septimus, you have some thinking around here. I don't see how this can be the whole community making a decision for the allocation of his funds in a code is law kind of way. It can be a social agreement, but I don't see how. Is there a structure in which all of the community need to vote to release these funds? Could we create another DAO and all of the TEC token holders have this DAO's token so that these funds can be released? Or is that adding too much complexity to something that shouldn't necessarily need to be that complex? So this idea of community decision making, let's go into that. What would that look like? What is the technical solution to implement custody of these TEC tokens with community-wide decision making?
Yeah, I really like the approach that Zodiac have, like progress decentralization. We still have a multi-sig, but let's say like with Zodiac, you can set up an oracle with the word. And the thing is, like, even you can set it up for it's like a Discord poll, and then the community is voting on this poll of Discord, and then the oracle is looking at this, and then community can execute it. It's like it's not fully decentralized because we still have a multi-sig to run Zodiac if problems happens, but at least you have the social agreement where this multi-sig.
Can you share a link? I have no idea who they are. Sorry. Does it maybe other people? Can you share a link?
Yeah. Let me search for it and I'll put it on the Stuart's channel. 1 sec.
So you're saying there's a platform that we could use to custody these tokens, and then they would be voted on for distribution.
Yeah, it's from NosiSafe. So it's cool.
Okay. I don't know, does anyone else have any thoughts? I'm completely unfamiliar with this. So
I think it'd be cool to get like the initial community's approval on like what we're outlining here, but executing the transactions I think is going to be really slow if we wait for the whole community to do it. Like it could take weeks to execute one transaction.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't have to be the whole community. It's like have some kind of parameters like we do in the normal DAO, like 8% of the quorum, some support required. Like, yeah, have some kind of agreement and rules about that. But yeah, it doesn't. You don't have to wait like until everyone votes because yeah, that would be impossible. Like, what if someone chooses not vote?
Okay.
Yeah, like I would say if we had like a clear proposal, like what Tam's saying from this, and just get like a snapshot vote on it and be like, okay, we're going to use this percent for this and this percent. We're going to take this many $100,000 out of the Hatch treasury and like get community support based on whatever our parameters are. And then the multi-sig itself can execute the transactions as they were outlined. And then like, all we have to do is just provide addresses and hashes, and, we can back up and show that we did what the community said they were in favor of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think, yeah, snapshot Discord, it doesn't matter what's the platform, but I think Snapshot is like the best one actually. And yeah, the intention is like this multisig only does what the community says on Snapshot to do. Like my biggest concern is like this multisig does what they think is the best, and yeah, that's the only concern. Like if the community is choosing and we use the multisig just to be more agile, I think that's cool because we don't have like 100% decentralized platforms right now. So yeah, even if I don't like multisigs, I see like right now they're important. And yeah, this is one like setting up this snapshot and being the decisions made by the community is like yeah, progressive decentralization, and we aim for it. And even if we are not right now, we aim for it.
Sorry guys, this should really be a Miro board or something.
Am I lagging again, Tam?
No, I'm just apologizing because I feel like doing this in a document is really weird. It'd be easier if we were all sort of jumping in a Miro board and putting advantages and disadvantages of all these different options. Because I think what we're trying to do is whittle down the options, like concrete options with figures, with facts, with protocols, with names, so that we can start to sort of present something solid to the community. And I realize the Word document is probably not the best place. So and now I'm sort of jumping around in like the advantages and disadvantages of the community decision making versus a trusted committee decision making, and the disadvantage of the trusted committee decision making is that we have to trust that people will do as they're expected.
For me, yeah, for me also it's very important. Like even if they are doing with their best intentions, they could be wrong, right? Like even if they're trying to do the best and with all their heart, but they just do something that is, and they just fail, and it's okay, like we're humans, we fail. But the thing is, like if this decision is failed by the community, it's it's better than it's failed for 1 or 2 or 3 or 20 people.
Yeah, but I guess there's on the flip side of that, I would say and I don't have a favorite option, by the way. I haven't really thought enough about it. But I would say for the option of having a small group of people, let's say there's 5 people, like the reward system, the reward board, having this, I don't know what we can call it, this token pool board, right, or committee that has a mandate with clear rules about how they have to, like the process to have a vote on how these funds could be used and exactly the kinds of things that it could be used for. And then it would be up to the people that we would trust, the community would have to trust, to actually follow those rules, right? It wouldn't be left up to them to make decisions on how to allocate these. There would be there's some really well-defined rules around that. That's how I would imagine this working. And for things like, we could take the reward system, right? That could actually be something that would not be under this structure at all. It would just go straight to rewards, to the rewards DAO or system. And then what would be left, what I think, in fact, what would be left is really like strategic partnerships and liquidity in second markets. And it would be up to, let's say, the small to then decide how much should be allocated, like to do the research, have the conversations, and then try to come up with how much should be put into the liquidity in secondary markets and how much should be put in strategic partnerships, and specifically with who, and then have a vote on that. But there's something very interesting about being able to move fast. Less so with strategic partnerships, because that can just take a lot of time, right? Okay, we are having these conversations for a few weeks. We decide to do a token swap. We decide to govern and help each other in these communities, like create a tighter bond between really strategic or the organizations. That's not a fast thing. But the idea of applying, like having liquidity in secondary markets, I mean, maybe we need to be able to react much faster in that arena? And would we be limiting ourselves, our ability to act fast, if we wanted to structure a community-wide vote? I'm going to ask this to Mitch because I feel like you've done some of the thinking of already in liquidity and secondary markets. What would be the disadvantages of the two structures we're discussing specifically for that use case, if you have them in your mind already or want to think about them?
Yeah, you kind of touched on them. It's like strategic partnerships. Well, first of all, strategic partnerships could be liquidity in secondary markets, like holding a TEC agave pool, right? So it could be something that looks similar. But just to your same point, like if there happens to be something like a bug with a system or a contract or God knows whatever, and we need to, get the money out of there, we need to have a system that can act quickly, because these things happen all the time. So we need to be able to cover our end in that way. And if we create a system that needs a few days instead of a few hours to act, that might be all the difference. Does that answer your question? Or do you want more specific ideas here for where we should put liquidity?
We can jump around. This is like a really open brainstorming session. I feel like we just need to start putting this puzzle together, if that makes sense. So I really do wish I had a Miro board now, but we can just keep going. And feel free to jump into this. Thank you for whoever jumped in with this with me. Yeah, feel free to just jump into this. Oh, cool. Thanks, Mitch. Yeah. So then it seems as if we were to go with this committee decision making, and maybe this is something we need to understand more about the parameters, right? I don't know. Can you add any details here about Zodiac and Gnosis Safe? How does it work? Does this mean, would we expect there to be like a vote that should take 48 hours, or can it be a shorter vote time frame? Like, let's say let's say we opt to provide liquidity in secondary markets, and there is a crisis, and we need to withdraw those tokens. If we need to do that quickly, would we be able to do that through the Zodiac mechanism?
I mean, yeah, it would take time because if there are parameters, you choose the parameters, and then it takes time. So it's no way we can do it faster. But the thing is, like, when we lock liquidity, I would lock it there and forget about it. Like, you don't need to do anything else then after. Like, you just put the liquidity there and you let you don't want to get away your liquidity. Like, you put liquidity TC Honey, let's say, and I think it would also be very beneficial, because Honey is paired with all the Gardens tokens, so it would give us liquidity almost to any token in the Gardens community. And yeah, the thing with hacks and stuff, I don't think, like, if you like Honey Swap, it's almost it's tested and it's been running for a long of time, so I don't think it have any bug. It would be exploited already. Same for Sushi Swap.
Let's just say we never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I know, but like, do you imagine Uniswap being hacked? Like, no way. Sam says it's impossible.
Until it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert in cybersecurity, but Sam says it's almost impossible. Like,
but imagine from the other end, like, what if like Uniswap upgrades their contracts, and we need to get access in there, and like we just need to do something like upgrade the contracts. Like, does that need to take a week? Does that go by the community, or is that just something that can be done?
I mean, yeah, the thing with operating the contract, you don't have to do that. Like, for example, with Uniswap, you can have your liquidity on version 2. You don't need to upgrade to version 3 if you don't want to. And I mean, yeah, when we do signs with this wallet, let's say, I think it's very important. I really think we should talk with the community. Imagine, like, what if this committee decides to put some money on ApeSwap and then they get hacked? how this community thing goes to the community and says, "Oh, sorry guys, we lost your money." For me, that's not acceptable.
No.
But if the community decides to put the money on ApeSwap and they lose the money, okay, the community lose it because we all choose to that, and it's okay. We mistake.
So shared responsibility.
Okay, clarification of the decisions we're talking about that either the community or a small committee would do would just be to decide where portions of this larger fund are going.
Let me give the context. So no decisions are being made. That's really important. Conversations around what could a possible proposal look like. So what are the options we have for this? If the TEC decides to do an initial buy of its own tokens, what is the number? What does the custody of that look like? Is it someplace that the whole community has to decide every time the tokens are allocated? Or is it a smaller group of people who are trusted and have a multi-sig? And then what are the parameters around the kinds of things that it could be used for, which maybe is more of like, what do we see it could be used for? I can imagine in the future there may be another use case. But it's only the tokens that the DAO would buy for itself at the time of the instantiation of the bonding curve. Does that make sense? Is that clear now?
Yeah, so couldn't we decide in advance what are the things we're gonna use this for, and just submit each one as a proposal for the whole community? And then if both pass, then this money is managed. Well, then it could be managed by a multi-sig. Is that the point of discussion?
Yeah. So the DAO wouldn't hold these tokens for itself. So where is the custody for these tokens and who manages that is the question.
If we decide that if one of the proposals is for the reward systems, for example, that could go straight to the reward DAO. So
that one's the easy one. This one's out of scope. In fact, for me, this one's just out of scope because that one goes exactly what you said. It's directly to the reward DAO. That one wouldn't need to be custodied or managed by anyone other than the intended recipient. But for holding on to TEC tokens for other cases like strategic partnerships or liquidity in secondary markets, those are not proposals that are immediately ready and may need to change over time. So it would be more like these TEC tokens are set aside for that purpose. And then how do we get to making that, how do we end up, what is the process to allocate those funds finally to a purpose that matches one of these designated purposes?
could form a multi-sig with like a diverse group of people and then have a vote for like knowing that those are the people in the multi-sig. And then it could be, I don't know, someone that has expertise in the secondary markets that could be like attentive to it and maybe have a little role description of the commitments that person is adhering to. And then someone else that would be responsible for the strategic partners. And then one person that is neutral to be able to block anything if needed. And like we could have, I don't know, even I think 8 people or 6 people would be a safe number somehow, if everyone approves.
I think so, but I'm not understand. Like, okay, we need to set up a multi-sig because fully decentralized it's impossible right now. Like, well, the only way is we just go with conviction voting and everything goes through conviction. But if we wanna do all these things, we need to put a wallet. So to do that, there is no fully decentralized options until I know, at least. So, but the thing is, like we were discussing before, like, okay, do you want these people to decide how to move these funds, or you prefer, like, we have an off-chain decision, like on a snapshot, for example, and the multisig, what the multisig does is what the decision on the snapshot says. So they do not decide anything; they just do what the community says. And so far, the discussion was the cons was we lose agility, and if we run into a hack or something, yeah, we it's not the same like acting 1 hour like acting 48 hours. And but also the other thing is, like, if the community this gets the decision, so they get all the responsibility for the decisions of the community, and it's not this multisig taking decisions from their own. And for me, I think it's very important.
So I guess the question is, can the community trust a smaller group of people to make good decisions for the DAO, or should we not trust that and instead have a mechanism to have the entire community have an input into them, into how they get dispersed? And it sounds like now this is turning into something that maybe will go to signaling from the community, right? Like laying out these two options might be a path forward. I'm not saying it is the path forward. One of the possible paths forward is laying out these two different options and the advantages and disadvantages of each of the options, and maybe having the community signal which one should be the final proposal. Whether there seems to be, I mean, I think here's what I can say. At this point, there are going to be many different small groups that are managing funds. Each of the working groups will have their funds. The rewards DAO will have a pool of funds. So we are saying we are trusting that we can have a group of people manage funds for a specific purpose. Maybe I'll ask, why is this different?
This microphone, the amount of money is not the same. Like working groups will help 50K max. And this is let's say 200K now, but if the token goes crazy and goes so up a lot, then instead of 300K, it would be easily $3 million. So the big difference is the amount of money.
I think the problem for me becomes this small group being able to make any decisions without scope. So I think if there's a proposal with a limited scope of, like, let's say liquidity in secondary markets, what are the possible decisions that can be taken? And then what is each, like, how to break down that decision the most possible and have a boundary there. Because then it's much harder to contest. Because if we don't have boundaries, and if something gets out of scope, then it's much easier for a conflict to arise and the person say, oh, I didn't agree with that, or no, this was in, or for it not to be clear. But if we make clear before, then we would be voting that committee has those responsibilities. And up until a point, we could, like, maybe there is a way to do a timed wallet. I don't know, something that expires after some time.
What would happen after it expires?
Another thing, I think that if this multisig is holding a lot of funds, they could just vote on conviction voting. I mean, we have Celeste, but that's another thing with a lot of funds you can do. And I see also different with working groups.
Hello, Griff.
Hey, hey.
So I also appreciate the idea that there can be possibly, maybe we dig into this deeper, but there can be a limitation of scope and a process that needs to be followed. So maybe this committee is voted by the community. So the community votes for the people, and if there is a dereliction of duty, then they can be voted off of this committee. I guess what I'm saying is that I don't know well enough Zodiac or Gnosis Safe to understand its limitations and its advantages. So what I can understand is building a process around a small committee that will provide mitigations against reckless behavior by that committee. I feel like that I can understand, but the introduction of Gnosis Safe sort of throws me off because, I don't know, maybe Griff, are you familiar with Zodiac by Gnosis Safe and the advantages and disadvantages of using it for this option to custody the tokens that are initially bought?
Zodiac is just branding for Gnosis Safe with some extra tooling as far as I know. So it's not, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, it's just better branding. They did it finally, thank God. And now people, it's like a invite to build on top of Gnosis Safe. I mean, the advantages are that it's much easier to work with than an Aragon DAO because it has better integration with, like it has its own wallet to interact with dApps and is like better than Frame in my opinion. Mitch can probably speak to that better than I can. But so it's like you can go and you, with this DAO, you can go with this multisig, you can go and interact with Uniswap. You can go and interact with these things, right? The problem is, of course, that if you're going to do that to interact with Uniswap, you're going to need the people who can sign it all there, click, 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 click really fast because if the trade gets out of whack, the market goes against the trade out of the slippage, then you're just wasting gas. And also the wallet doesn't pay the gas. People pay gas. So any kind of, whoever is clicking the final button to click that transaction has to pay the gas. But I would say that all of these things are just mechanical. How do we interface with a blockchain? And the committee stuff that you're talking about is the real meat.
Okay, so that's good, actually, very helpful. So then it seems like Zodiac, I mean, we could use Gnosis Safe for the big community option or the small committee option. It would be, we could use it for both options too, right? Would that be correct? Okay, so then they're not two different things. So then maybe this is different. So I guess then the question is, if we wanted to be really specific about what would it look like, how would we implement the solution for having the entire community decide how these funds are allocated? What would that technical structure look like? Would it be Gnosis? Would it be Zodiac? Or would it be something else?
Gnosis is Zodiac. So we'll confirm that. And I mean, I would see it like maybe like a 4 to 7 multi-sig and like only actually executes the transactions that are approved by the community. So whether it's a snapshot vote or a forum poll or something, like they're only working within the scope of the community, right? Sorry, there's a motorcycle. But then like the extra power of having that multi-sig is that if there's an emergency, like they're able to act, but they're not just like, you know, putting all the money into Ape Swap or whatever, like you were saying, like they're only acting within the bounds of what was mandated by the community for them to do. But the multi-sig is the actual people doing it.
So then, is there any way, what Zepti is imagining, is there any way for it to be the whole community making that decision?
No, I actually like what this process. No, we do what the community says. This is good. This is what I am, like progressive decentralization. And what I was not happy with is like this small commit decides where to put the money. But if we are putting on a snapshot forum vote, yeah, if we do this way, I'm happy. Like, okay.
Okay. I mean, in theory, they can go rogue. But they would, the point is that we would trust them to adhere to their mandate, right? That
Yeah.
we
And
agree
if
that
they do
we
go
build
rogue,
rules around how they need to have approval first. Sorry, Mitch, go ahead.
if they do go rogue, like the blockchain is always there. It's always open, right? So anybody can become a whistleblower in that sense.
Okay, so I kind of feel like now, yeah, and maybe there's some like voting on and off. Like, do we vote this committee on and vote this committee off on Snapshot? Sorry, I want to get into the details because I want to put as much details as we can into this proposal so people can make informed decisions on it.
Say it needs to be on Snapshot because it should reflect actual token holders.
Okay, so 7-person committee. I don't know if committee is even the right word. We could change all of the text. Okay, this is starting to have a form now.
Hi, I have a question. I think it's a good exercise to think on like 10, 20, 40 years from this kind of proposal, because I was doing that exercise and you end up with a system that is similar to what we already have. So I imagine that you will have to protect the guys that are voting, or maybe we have to, I don't know, it should rotate. And it's a aleatory system, because if you're going for elections, yeah, you're putting politics in here. So at least this is one some of my thoughts.
Hey Pablo, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us, and thanks for just jumping on the call and jumping in. I love that kind of energy. It's really cool.
Well, I'm passionate about DAOs, and I love it what the exercise you are doing, because I do it myself on my head, and it's very hard to imagine how you implement some kind of governance. So it's that's what I think we are trying all to solve, and there will be different approaches to these systems. So yeah, I'm all about thinking on this on the next years. So I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure the scope of this proposal would make sense in 20, 30 years, but I do love that idea of like future thinking and imagining. I think that we may end up with very different tools in 20 years. But it's always interesting to challenge yourself to think about how it'll age in the future. Okay, is this looking good, guys?
Yeah. And regarding the other thing, what Pablo was saying, don't make it politics. I think one solution to that, like since these multisig are only going to do what the poll says on Snapshot or whatever, like I really think like it should be like that. We go on the ranking and the token holders, and yeah, I was also thinking maybe someone just don't want to do it, and then it goes to the next one. Like if the first token holders have, I don't know, and he don't want to be, then it goes to second, and if it's 5 or 7, then the top 5, 7, and if someone is passing, so it goes to 8, 9 or whatever. But I really think the people who have the higher stake should be the ones holding it, because at the end of the day they are who have more stake, so who have bigger price of the that I think that.
I think the structure is taking a really good form. We have 2 minutes. So I would love to hear Griff and Livia on the figure. I don't think we have enough time for both of you, but what is your feeling about the number we're trying to aim to lock down?
I like the more the better. I'm happy for 300K. I'll pass it to Livia.
Yeah, I don't think I have too much awareness of like market movements and stuff, but I agree that a higher number is cool because it feels important for us to hold a good percentage of our own tokens.
What are the disadvantages of holding more tokens?
The biggest disadvantage is that people will be like, oh my God, are they going to dump? How are they going to dump? And speculation will be less, speculators will be less invited to participate if we take the like cheapest money out. I don't think completely because we're going to hold it. If we say what we're going to do with those tokens in advance, I think that's greatly mitigated. But in the end, there's this like feeding frenzy at the initialization of a bonding curve, so like we kind of dampen that. The more money we take out, the more it's like not as cool.
And is there any impact on the other pools, the conviction voting pool and the reserve pool?
This is dependent on the exit tribute and entry tribute because in the end, whatever we buy in, it goes back into the bond. Whatever some percentage of it goes into the bonding curve, and the other percent goes into the conviction voting pool. So it's like if you add the exit and entry tribute together, that percentage goes to the common pool, and the rest will go to the reserve. So we're taking money out and then putting it back in. It's just. That's why we need the number in advance so we can design around it. There's no impact on the total funds held in both pools.
Okay, we're out of time and there's a very important params party right now. So Mitch and Zep, would you mind doing a part 2 of this with me early next week? And
Yeah.
I think we're really close. And I'm sorry we didn't get all the way there today.
Yeah, for me, Tam, just set up a time. I know your schedule is, your calendar is more booked than mine. So what is not in DC calendar already, just make me know and I'll be there. And sing with Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch, is that okay for you?
Yeah, check in first.
Check in?